organize and how we govern it. Lord God, please help us to be more like your son each day and just help us to show people your love. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Item number 4, roll call, city clerk.
Warren,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Canitas.
Here.
Councilmember McAdams.
Here.
Councilmember Holmes.
Here.
Councilmember Gay.
I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's meeting. Item 6, the reports. City manager,
No, sir.
nothing.
But
Okay.
the emergency pipe bursting project we had between McKinley and Roosevelt is complete. Glenn, anything to add to that? We're going to do a little report at the next meeting. We have everything put together, but it is complete.
Yeah, everything's complete. They did a very good job. No issues on tying anybody in.
Okay, thank you. Any other reports?
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, City Council. On May 8th, 1945, celebrations around the world erupted around the world, marked the end of World War II in Europe. The day later became known as Victory in Europe Day, or VE Day. The war had been raging for almost 5 years when the U.S. and Allied forces landed on the beaches of Normandy, France on June 6, 1944. The invasion signaled the end for Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. In less than a year, Germany would surrender and Hitler would be dead. Adolf Hitler had committed suicide on the 30th of April during the Battle of Berlin, and his successor, Reich President Karl Donitz, authorized Germany's surrender. The administration, headed by Donitz, was known as the Flansburgh government. In the United States, the event coincided with President Harry Truman's 61st birthday. He dedicated this victory to the memory of his predecessor, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who died of a cerebral hemorrhage less than a month earlier. Truman said that his only wish that Franklin had lived to witness this day. In his speech to the nation on VE Day, President Harry Truman cautioned allies that they must work to finish the war, for that we were still in the process of defeating the Japanese in the Pacific. VE Day marked the end of fighting in Europe, where tens of millions of service members and civilians had been killed. Some 250,000 U.S. troops lost their lives in the European theater. Tens of thousands of people filled the streets of New York, New Orleans, London, Australia, and other allied nations. There was a massive celebration in Paris. U.S. forces took part in celebrations in France, a nation that had suffered through much of the fighting. Today, memorials around the world mark the events of VE Day and World War II and honor those who served and paid the ultimate sacrifice, including the National World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. We have very few veterans left who fought in World War II, but some continue to take part in reunions and observations to mark VE Day. VFW Post 4820 has 7 World War II veterans to this day. Most of them served in Europe. Men like Travis Ferris, Horace Hebert, Fred Mew, Daniel Miller, Ray Smith, Ignatius Trahan, and Roy Colbert. Roy Colbert lives right here in Groves. And he's related to Lucian Adams, the only Medal of Honor winner from Port Arthur in World War II. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other reports? Move on to citizen comments. Any citizen comments? All right. Now we're gonna go a little bit out of order at this time. So we're going to hear and deliberate on the presentations of the Groves Chamber of Commerce Mother of the Year for 2025 and the mayor's proclamation declaring May 12, 2025 as Kathy Gibber Day. Letha? Did you have anything? Okay. Right here, thanks everybody else. Offer to the mayor proclamation. I, Chris Horn, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor, city of Groves, Texas, do hereby proclaim May 12, 2025 as Kathy Gibber Day in the city of Groves, Texas, and urge each and every citizen of our city to recognize and honor Kathy Gibber as the 2025 Mother of the Year in the community of Groves, as brought forth by the Groves Chamber of Commerce and Tourist Center. Testimony whereof witnessed my hand and the seal of the city of Groves this 12th day of May, 2025. Congratulations. Item 8, be deliberate and act to approve the minutes of the April 28th, 2025 city council meeting.
I'll make a motion, we deliberate and act to approve the minutes of the April 28th, 2025 city council meeting.
Motion and a second to deliberate and act to approve the minutes of the April 28th, 2025 city council meeting. Have any questions? No questions. We'll vote on the motion. Mayor votes aye. Mayor Pro Tem Canitas.
Aye.
Councilmember Holmes.
Aye.
Councilmember Gay. Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 9, deliberate and act on a resolution authorizing the submittal of a motor vehicle crime prevention authority fiscal year 2026 grant to purchase automated license plate readers and designate the city marshal as the authorized officer.
Make a motion, we deliberate and act on the resolution authorizing the submittal of a motor vehicle crime prevention authority fiscal year 2026 grant to purchase automated license plate readers and designate the city marshal as the authorized officer.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to deliberate and act on a resolution authorizing the submittal of the motor vehicle crime prevention authority fiscal year 2026 grant to purchase automated license plate readers and designate the city marshal as the authorized officer. Have any questions? Marshall?
Mayor, council, thank y'all for this opportunity this evening to present another grant application. City manager, do we have the clicker? Do you have the slides still? Neither?
I have them in PDF.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, hopefully we can at least look through them in your packets. I don't know if you have any of it in front of you.
Yeah.
I've got one printout, but Steve Kendrick.
No, they have a PDF.
Good deal. Tonight, I respectfully request the city council approval of a resolution. And this is to the Texas DMV. It's specifically a group called the Texas Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority. It is labeled 2026, but it is for the fiscal year 25-26. That first slide with the grant application summary, we'll start there. Thank you. What this grant is going to do is going to assist our department in acquiring and deploying automated license plate readers. And basically what these are, they're camera systems focused in on vehicle plates, descriptors. They're stationary, and you put them in specific segments of ingress, egress in the city, and they're used for investigative purposes. And what this does, especially today, and this grant, its primary focus is catalytic converter theft prevention. We've been plagued by catalytic theft, catalytic converter thefts. Let's say that 3 times fast. In the past, and though those numbers are declining, the state has still recognized that as a major issue. And we do have some data to justify our submittal of this grant as well. But as you can see, the total grant, the project seeks $76,000 as the total funding. This particular grant does require a resolution and a 20% city match. The proposal supports a continuation and expansion of our vehicle crime prevention strategies that we've enacted thus far. We have a prior ALPR grant pending. It's through Homeland Security. I've spoken with you in the past about it. We've got a resolution passed for it. The problem is a lot of the funding that's occurring in the country right now. It's not looking like that was going to be funded for us. So this particular grant is to either supplement or on its own handle the ALPR strategy that we hope to include in our next fiscal year's strategies. Next slide, please, sir. With this particular grant, it'll have the installation of 12 ALPR units. These systems will be integrated into the Beaumont Real-Time Crime Center. It will also help us function and coordinate with all of our neighboring agencies that have either similar technology or are also locked into the Real-Time Crime Center. This will help us get our foot in the door if that previous grant does not, or hopefully supplement whatever we are able to get through that previous grant. And what you do is, and if you'd like to reference this chart here or on your forms, and this is not to scale, this certainly isn't a strategic look at what we may be utilizing, but what you see there at the bottom left of that image is the intersection of Twin City Highway and Highway 73. And the yellow triangles somewhat represent the angles at which some of these plate readers would be focused and oriented. And the strategy, especially with the Real-Time Crime Center and neighboring agencies, is this: if a report of catalytic converter theft or any type of motor vehicle theft were to be reported and entered into this system, real time, we will get either information that has traveled through our city or vice versa. If we're investigating something and we input documentation or license plate or a descriptor of a vehicle that potentially matches, other agencies would get the same information, and we would immediately start interacting and sharing real time into where that vehicle may be located, where it may be headed, both to prevent the theft, to reobtain the property, but to investigate it further and hopefully bring that actor to justice. So they do provide real-time alerts. While targeting catalytic converter theft is a priority, this technology supports a broad spectrum of vehicle-related crime and prevention, even anything you can imagine if it has to do with a vehicle, whether that's an actor fleeing or anything in between. This has assisted many agencies throughout the state of Texas, and we hope to be a part of that. Next slide, please. Specifically to the benefits of our community, with that enhanced real-time intelligence and interagency collaboration, this is really going to help us here locally and assisting neighboring agencies. It gives you faster suspect identification and improved officer response and safety. It's basically an additional set of officer eyes, right? But you're only paying the camera's pricing and the installation of the pole to get what an officer and their surveillance would provide. Now, before we get too much further into it, and I know I explained a little bit this, a little of this in our last interaction with these ALPRs. This isn't like a big brother where, visually scanning people's faces or anything along those lines. Though these ALPRs are camera systems that do document specifics to these vehicles, it's to the vehicles specifically only. This is license plates, decals, descriptors of the vehicles, shape, size, speeds, things of that nature. Additionally, this technology is adaptable. We use in a lot of different areas, and this particular grant application that we're going to be submitting also comes along with an ALPR trailer that is maneuverable and mobile and can be stationed in any type of location or situation. Next slide, please. this is an idea of what it looks like, and what it has is two opposite directional ALPRs and a 360-degree camera. Let's say we had an instance of a string of burglaries or a string of catalytic converters thefts in a specific region where a lot of vehicles are parked, let's say in a department zone. We could put something like this in that area and give it real-time, constant evaluation, deterrence, and investigative potential with this trailer. So it just continues to supplement all the things we're trying to achieve thus far. Real-time, quick, and allows us to interact with agencies around us to share that data and also to receive data that they can share with us. So this program, next slide. Oh, actually, I think that might still, yeah, let's stick with this slide just a little bit longer. It is aligned with MVCPA's mission to prevent vehicular specific theft and catalytic converter theft. Installation of these ALPRs includes appropriate training, allowing our staff and our officers to know everything that they need to know, how to utilize it. Same as databases that are shared across the state or federally. You have logins, you have training. You can't use this for personal gain or personal interest. It needs to be assigned to a call for service or a case number where an investigation is ongoing. So all of those things are checked through the software. If you're going to be requesting data, if you're going to be entering data, all those things are timestamped, logged, and tracked and auditable. We already have collaboration in place, and if you've watched the news at all, several agencies around us have really had some major success with this real-time crime system. And having this system will not only allow us to share data with it, it also gets our foot in the door, like I've mentioned, to receiving that data. And that's major. It's going to really, really change how we're able to do the investigative process and the swiftness in which we can do that. So we're ready to move forward upon approval with flexible resources to adjust the scope of this spending. Obviously, if this grant comes in a little bit lower or higher, which was rare, like unlikely, we can scale this process down. So right now we want 12 ALPRs in a trailer. If we get a fraction of the grant funding, we'll just scale it down. The minimum for our size agency with the companies that provide these ALPR services is typically 4, minimum of 4. Now, just to give you some context, a lot of the neighboring agencies that we have around us have 20 plus. So this just puts our foot in the door, getting this process started. Now, specifically through the MVCPA's grant, they do allow continuation grants. So if this grant were to continue year after year after year, and we hope that it does, we would be able to apply for continuations to expand, to supplement what we're putting in now. But of course, approval of this resolution is required. We cannot move forward with this grant application without your approval. So please consider it. If you have any questions at all, I'm happy to assist. Thank you all for your attention.
Marshall, on the continuation grant, if they don't do a continuation grant, is there a projected cost for annual subscriptions, hardware, anything that goes along with what we have to do to keep with the updates?
Absolutely. So these specific types of processes that we're seeing, which is a lot of it is subscription based, because this is a grant driven program, the entities that assist with this or have technology that is allowable in this grant process, they do specifically 1-year terms, right? So you're not going to obligate yourself to something that you can't handle if a grant were to conclude. So as of right now, this would fund, plus the city's match, of course, 1 full year. This particular brand, of course, we got several quotes, but it's Flock Safety is the system that we would likely utilize. If that year is up and we find out, hey, there is no continuation grant, the Department of Motor Vehicles is not going to continue this process any further. Once that contract ends, they pick up their cameras because they do still own those cameras. This is a subscription service. They pick up their poles and they leave. There's no additional charge.
Okay.
The cost for this system right here, these 12 ALPRs and the trailer, next year, if we had no grant funding, would be $36,000.
36 per year.
Yes, sir. Now that does include more than just the product, right? That includes the training, the software, maintenance, firmware updates. If one were to be damaged, it gets put back up for charge. I'm sure they only do that for so many units. You know, they're trying to make some profit as well. but it does come with protections for those items, as well as everything in between.
So the year by year rental is about 36,000
That's correct.
for the
12 in this case.
hardware and software.
Yes, sir.
So the other part of the 76 is the installation process.
Yes, sir.
Good training, I guess, right?
So the entire unit itself, we don't own any.
We don't own any of this. No, sir.
And the other key aspect, which he's mentioned, is it gives us access, allows us to plug into the real-time crime center.
That's right. Flock Safety and the program that they have is the most utilized in the entire nation. And they are competitive. I'm not trying to give them a kick here. Hey, look, this is a great company. But they have the most expansive view. So for instance, just the other day, something happened up in the Northwest Oregon area. And that vehicle got hit in our region. And because we have such a representative section of ALPRs, they were able to track that information, send it to the investigators that were needed in that original jurisdiction. And they worked together to come to a conclusion on that case. That is something that is also provided, and I don't think we'd be remiss not to mention that, is that interconnectivity, that web of
So it's
connecting.
nationwide, not just
That's
statewide.
exactly right.
What about the cellular service? Is that also included in the price?
Everything that camera needs to do to receive data and upload data, it's all included. There is no additional cell service, there's no additional solar panel, there's no additional electricity. Everything that camera functions and does what they say it's going to do as long as we're a subscribing member.
Any costs associated with the application?
No, sir. The application is free. If we're denied, or if we don't make the cut, we have no obligation. Only obligation we have payment wise is to match what they provide.
Which accrued, would that come out of police budget or general fund?
But this grant will come about next fiscal year, so this would be a budgeted item.
Okay. Out of the police grant or police budget then?
Correct.
Okay.
You don't see any issue with that?
No, we'll work it into the budget for next year. In worst case, he has a forfeiture account that we could plug into.
That's a good idea.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Marshall.
Thank you.
No other questions? We'll vote on the motion. Mayor votes aye. Mayor Pro Tem Canitas.
Aye.
Councilmember Holmes.
Aye.
Councilmember Gay. Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10, deliberate and act to authorize the issuance of a request for proposals for auditing services.
Make the motion, we deliberate and act to authorize the issuance of a request for proposals for auditing services.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to deliberate and act to authorize the issuance of a request for proposals for auditing services. On the questions, Lamar? Or, yep, either one.
Lamar.
Okay, Mayor and Council, Walton DeShawn the Younger was the first city auditor. Their last audit they presented to y'all a couple of meetings back was their fifth and final audit under the previous contract. So now, as their contract has expired, I'm asking permission to go out, request bids for a new city auditor. There's nothing prohibiting the current or Walton DeShawn from bidding again, but it opens up to all various auditing companies out there.
Lamar, were they originally a 3-year with a 2-year extension?
That's how this one would be proposed as well, yes, sir.
Okay, and you have the option to back out in the next 2 years, but it'll be for a 3-year term
Correct.
with a additional 2-year.
Two
extension.
1-year options, yes.
2 1-year options. The last time we went out, how many bid proposals did they came back? Do you remember?
We had, I want to say 4, but one of them was late, so it didn't count.
Okay. So this is just asking to be able to go out and bid.
Correct.
Okay.
We'll gather the results, we'll form an audit review committee again. Evaluate the bids and present it to council, the recommendation.
Mr. Osley, is this the audit that takes place at the end of the fiscal year or the entire year?
That is correct, yes. The city's required to have it audit every year, and so this would be that service. And the city auditor reports directly to city council. Make that very clear.
Any other questions? No questions, vote on the motion. Mayor votes aye. Mayor Pro Tem Canitas.
Aye.
Councilmember Holmes.
Aye.
Councilmember Gay. Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item 11, deliberate and act on ordinance 2025-09, approving an extension of the moratorium on game room applications.
Make a motion, we deliberate and act on ordinance 2025-09.
Second.
I think Ray got it. We have a motion and a second to deliberate and act on ordinance 2025-09, approving the extension of the moratorium on game room applications. On to question. Mr. Caruth, I'm assuming we're doing this because of the proposed legislation. Or we're gonna wait on that?
Part of it.
Well, there's a couple of balls up in the air.
Okay,
You recall back in, I think it was November, the council instituted a 6-month moratorium. Because we were getting overrun by applications for new game rooms. When it was passed, we had 6 game rooms already operating and 2 were already in the permitting process. And right now we have all those, and there's one that's renovating its space and has not opened yet. Since that time, last month, we had fire marshal and police department conducted inspections of some of the game rooms. 3 of them, of the ones that are on the table there, were inspected, and they had multiple violations, which resulted in their revocation of their gaming permits. All 3 of them appealed the revocations to the appeal board, and the board upheld their permanent revocations on April 29th. So that leaves us with 4 operating game rooms, 1 more waiting to build out its space. So last time we had a moratorium, which was January of 23, we had some game rooms that, or I had one, I guess it was just one game room, but their permit came up for technically renewal, because each one is a SUP that's only good for a year, so they came up to do their a new application. And at that time, council extended their existing permit until such time as council decided what they're going to do with the moratorium. And Marshall can jump in here, provide us the latest information that we've been in dialogue with Jefferson County officials to determine what their stance is going to be on prosecutions, violation of existing statutes. In addition, the cities of Beaumont and Orange have, and in the case of Orange and with Beaumont, they're in the process of updating the ordinances. And they're, I think in the case of Orange, they've outlawed them basically. And the expectation, I think, in Beaumont is they're going to make them very, very strong or outright outlaw them there as well. So between what the legislature has running through the processes there and not knowing exactly where Jefferson County is going to land on their prosecution stance, we think that from the staff's recommendation is that we extend the moratorium until these play out and we have more definition. The current legislative session goes for a couple more weeks, and don't know exactly when. Marshall, if you have more information about where the county is on their thinking, but that will probably resolve fairly soon. Do you think?
I hope so, but you know, when you mentioned there's a lot of balls bouncing around right now at the same time in different courts, some were waiting for legislators, some were waiting for an appeal board, some were waiting on seeing what other cities are going to do based on what they are seeing in the process. So there's a Fort Worth case that was appealed and the Supreme Court of Texas said, no, everything looks good to us. There's another one specific to an organization called Pace-O-Matic, and theirs doesn't quite fit the definitions of the state for a gambling item. It's a more skill-based, solely skill-based. And it also doesn't fit the definition for a redemption machine. So there's just so many different things happening all at once. We actually have a case on the district attorney's desk right now, spending some of his team reviewing it, looking into a specific brand to see, is it solely skill-based or is there some algorithms underneath that pseudo-random, which would imply some form of gambling. So just a lot of things going on at once. We hope to have some word from the DA's office on whether they feel that this particular one that we're dealing with is a crime or not. Until they decide, yes, this is prosecutable, or no, what the state's doing right now, really not prosecutable at this time. Just kind of waiting.
So we really have two questions for council's consideration. One is, do you want to extend the moratorium? And two, if you do, we have a couple of the existing permits that will come due during, well, depending on how long you want to extend the moratorium. If you extend it 6 months, there are three of these existing permits will come due during that 6 month extension. So do you want to extend those permits as they come up like you did last time, or just let them run out and no renewals or exceptions?
I don't remember what we did with the fees when we extended the one game room last time.
We didn't do anything.
I think we basically just held them in abatement until such time that we opened our applications back up again.
So at that point, they were able to operate for 4 or 6 months without. Did we go back and do the full fee at the?
Yes, at the time that we registered them and their application was submitted, they did pay the full fee at that time.
It was just the one game room.
So their specific use would be backdated to the original date. And they paid the entire full amount for that.
That's mine. Did we do that? Did we backdated? I'm not sure that we
I don't think
backdated
we
it,
backdated.
but I do think they paid the full fee.
They paid the full fee.
They paid a full fee for the next 12 years or 12 months, but so whatever they operated during that time, we didn't collect any of those fees.
That's correct.
I don't want to do that this time. That is my opinion here is no matter what, we should collect the fees for. If they're going to stay open, they still owe us the money. So if we can either do it where their original specific use date is the date going forward, and we backdate the permit to that date.
We can do that just in the administration of issuing the permit. No problem with that.
So their original anniversary date would be the date moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you do that and they don't do another application, I think they might need to do it.
Any suggestion? Mr. Correct?
Monthly fee.
I don't quite follow what you're saying.
So what y'all are suggesting is when they make their next yearly specific use permit, when they apply, it's backdated from when the first one was gonna end. What if they don't reapply in 6 months? Then you have 6 months of no payment. So you would have to do some sort of monthly fee or.
Do they all come out to a different time frame? I'm assuming.
Mhm.
So can we make it where the fee that's due is the amount to the end of the moratorium?
Yes.
So let's say it's June, they'd have to pay 5 months to keep their permit active for the extension. And then when they renewed in whenever the moratorium ends,
Then they do a full year.
then they would pay the rest of the year. Or you can reset their date for
Reset
the new time. Either way, they don't get to operate for free.
Yeah.
That is my suggestion, is nothing's free.
Second that.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that gonna require a change of the ordinance here? Mr. Monk?
I think we can approve this and then administer it that way.
Okay, the actual details don't need to be in the ordinance of how the fees are gonna be adopted.
We did not set forth those
No.
specifics in the ordinance as it was drafted, so
Okay.
there would be nothing that we need to change there.
So this is an extension of 6 months
Well,
for the moratorium, and then we're gonna enforce it for a prorated to the end of the 6-month moratorium for all permits that need to be extended through the period of the.
Right.
It does say that they're not.
I think if I'm understanding, line 54 says until the moratorium ends. So up to 6 months is what we have on this. We're declaring 6 months. And only 6 months.
Well, we would have to extend it again at that time.
We can't say 6 months now and then stop the moratorium. Am I?
We can stop it at any time.
Yeah, that language was intended to say, well, let's say we come up with the change to the ordinance that we like, at which time the moratorium could end at that point, if
Gotcha.
council chose.
And then they've already prepaid, so you just add that or just credit that back to them for their extension. So the enforcement of it, we don't need to modify, we just need to extend it
Correct.
if that's council's wish.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Is everybody okay with the enforcement of it? To prorate to the end of the moratorium extension? The only thing that wouldn't be captured would be the specific use permit fee, in which since they're not applying for one, I think that's probably okay.
What about the application fee? You just wanna charge per, the price per machine. So they're really not doing that.
Well, we can't receive applications, so I don't think you
So
can get that
just
either.
do the prices for the machines.
Yeah. And then we'll get the other two fees when they actually get to fill out the application for their. And the specific use. So this will be the operating cost, not the application cost. Everybody agree with that? Okay. Any other questions? Just to clarify, this is a 6-month extension of the game room moratorium. No other questions, vote on the motion. Mayor votes aye. Mayor Pro Tem Canitas.
Aye.
Councilmember Holmes.
Aye.
Councilmember Gay. Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Do we have to put in some resolution or ordinance for administering that?
I don't think so.
Item 12, deliberate and act on the May 6, 2025 invoice list.
Deliberate and act on the May 6, 2025 invoice list.
Second motion.
A motion and a second to deliberate and act on the May 6, 2025 invoice list. Is it May 6?
I'd say May 12th.
Is it May 12? I think it's May 12. Do we need to amend that?
I think I
Mr.
did that
Bond?
with slips.
Then you go just
Yeah.
the date.
Let's change the date.
I'm gonna amend my motion to deliberate and act on the May 12, 2025 invoice list.
Brandon.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion and a second for the amended motion to deliberate and act on the May 12th, 2025 invoice list. On the question, Mr. Bruce.
Joe, we're looking.
Okay, there's several items tonight. The first one is absolute insulation. $34,656.50. This is for the spray insulation to the ceiling at the activity building. Chameleon Industries polymer for the water plant, $35,518.40. GSW Microsolid, which is for the wastewater plant, so $6,550. Advice Fleet Management, lease payments for March and April, $23,262.43. Epic Engineering, for the SCADA system, $103,425.72. LMVA for raw water in April, $24,942.15. Moody Brothers, annual preventative maintenance on a chlorine system, $7,874.12. Pump Solutions, replacement of the high service pump and installation, $11,000. Silsby Ford, two checks, one for $14,077.10, the other one for $15,113.12. This is for two new patrol cars that were on the lease program with Enterprise, but we bought the equipment to go in it. Normally, we're able to take stuff off the old units and reuse them on the new units, except when there's, in this case, where we had kind of a double whammy where we had the Unity camera system, which is new and wasn't compatible, and then you had a change in the inside of the unit, the compartment. So the things just didn't physically fit inside, so we had to buy all new stuff. Then Southern Tire Mart inventory of tires at the garage, $5,709.63. A grand total of $282,129.17.
Mr. Caruth, on the parts for the patrol units, Enterprise is gonna install those things, or is?
No, we hired somebody to install them for us.
The stuff we took it out, did we get to keep the old stuff?
Oh, yes, sir.
And it can be used on any of if something breaks on one of the existing patrol cars?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
The ones that were decommissioned, if you will, they're still to be utilizing, they're on in CID capacity. But of course, as we switch to this lease system, and of course, that's still up for debate or decision. But with these two specific ones, we know that we're not going to keep these vehicles long-term. They're not ours. We're leasing them for a time, and then one day they're going to have to turn around and take them. Those pieces are ours, so those we can then incorporate into a new one. The problem is, as we decommission our oldest fleet, and then the time period between that and getting some new leased vehicles, the parts they're not compatible.
Yeah.
But yes, we still have the old computer, the old Explorers and the equipment that came out of those. We
So
still
you
access
have
to
new Explorers, they're not different vehicles.
That's right, they're Explorers.
Okay.
Well, the configuration of the cabin is different than the new.
Right, from the old.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the model year change.
Yes, sir.
Brandon, you have something else?
No, those dollar amounts are captured in a budget, a planned budget item, or?
Yes, we knew going in, yes, sir.
Okay, that's,
The GLO grant, the second payment, how close are they to finishing that project? Troy?
they're just waiting on parts to finish the project. They've ordered everything. I think this is the second payment of 5.
5 payments? Okay. It was what, was it 1.2? That was for the entire thing,
Yeah,
not just the
entire thing.
SCADA thing.
A little over 500 for
Okay,
the SCADA system. That's for water and wastewater
okay.
plants.
So that's coming out of that grant money.
It's the 2021 grant money.
Yes.
So they really haven't done any install yet.
They've installed quite a bit. It's just they're waiting on the final parts, like for the towers and the radio units.
Okay. And no guesstimate of when? I mean, you don't have to, just,
I couldn't tell you that.
okay.
That spray insulation, that's on the inside or?
Yes, sir.
Correct, it's on the inside.
And that was a budgeted item, wasn't it? Yes. We
we did add to it at the last minute, a, the sealant, if you will, that added an R factor as well as a flame retardant. When they're about halfway through, the spray installation by itself did not look very good at all, just by itself. So we had it coated with, I forgot what they called it. Radiant barrier. It did add a slight additional R factor to the installation, but it was also a flame retardant. So,
All right. Any other questions? No other questions, we'll vote on the motion. Mayor votes aye. Mayor Pro Tem Canitas.
Aye.
Councilmember Holmes.
Aye.
Councilmember Gay. Councilmember McAdams.
Aye.
Motion passed. Item 14, city will hold an executive, or city council will hold an executive session pursuant to the provisions of chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in section 551.0711A, consultation with attorney when the government body seeks the advice of its attorney about pending or contemplated litigation. Section 551.072, deliberations about real property. And that's it. So we will adjourn into executive session at 5:46. I'll vote for this.
We reconvening in the open session at 6:31. All right. 15, council member comments.
Well, she's no longer here, but I wanted to congratulate the mother of the year. But maybe she'll go back and look at the video.
We'll be on recording
Congratulations.
for life,
Yeah.
or at least 3 months. Any other council member comments? There being none, we will adjourn this meeting at 6:31 and 42 seconds.
Y'all for coming down. Now.
I say that.
We didn't say that.
About 30 cents.
What's up, dude? Why are you doing, sir?
That's different. Oh, he wrote it down. Okay, is that all of you? Mind if you trash?
With that, want to redo it, we'll see what you think. We'll go on to Chris. Okay.
You want to do that?
Flyer?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
For
Thank you.
Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate it. How everything was known, everything yesterday.
Well, we were out of town, so I'm actually. To do my business.
Oh, no.
We didn't land. We landed back on at 11:30.
Oh, yeah, he went out of town. Look at that, too, today. Okay. Oh, yeah. Get around here. Oh, actually. Much food that everybody inside is trying to do. No, we'll say something, but I can't because she's taking over. So let's say, we'll say, the student feels something was stupid.
And I need to. Oh, Karen Thomas, nice to meet you.
Hi, guys.
Bye.
Y'all have fun.
I just don't know if everybody's gonna be familiar with the agenda. All right, is everybody ready to get rolling? We're hoping to start a little bit earlier, but here we are. Before we get officially started, Letha was acting president, or was the president of the EDC prior to the new appointments. So expectation is she'll continue in that role. So she'll technically run this meeting and discuss that once we get into the workshop. So when you're ready to start.
All right, we'll call this meeting to order at 6:35.
And we're gonna go down the items on the agenda if you're gonna wonder how this rolls.
Good matter. Okay. Could you all stand, please, and we'll do you have the prayer and then the pledge? Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with thanksgiving and praise. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve our community in this capacity. We only ask that you reveal to us what your plans are so that we can advocate for those plans for our city because you know what's best. We ask that you be with us, you guide us and lead us as you're the ultimate counselor, Lord. May everything we do be pleasing to you in the ways that we go about helping our city, that we don't have our own agenda, but yours, Lord, because you know what's best. We thank you for your grace and your mercy and for your forgiveness. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all. You want to do roll call?
I'll just roll call. Ethan Mouse,
Here.
Aaron Heiss,
Here.
Kurt Gillespie. Here. Ben Lofton,
Here.
Chad Garrett,
Here.
Lane Howell,
Here.
Melissa Hoyt. Welcome, guys, to our guests and the media. So, after citizen comments.
Do we have any citizen comments? Nothing from the peanut gallery.
Okay, now we'll move on. This is a workshop, so there'll be no action taken tonight. This is just for discussion. I created a couple of handouts for y'all. This is the big fancy one. And then if y'all want to take notes, here's one to take notes. However y'all would like to do it. I sent y'all all an email with a whole bunch of attachments. I'm sure you've read and memorized all of them. So if you haven't, that's okay. But this is the agenda of the workshop session that we'll walk through tonight. This is to get us familiar with how the meetings work, what the goals and objectives of the EDCs are, and what rules we have to live within as far as our role as the economic development. And for y'all don't know, this is Brandon Monk. He is the city attorney, but he's also engaged as the EDC attorney. So it'll help guide us when we start getting off. Hard to know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. So a quick history: the economic development sales tax was created by the state of Texas in 1989 and expanded in 1991. If anybody's really interested in reading the law, the actual stuff that they write that says how all this works, local government code chapters 501 through 507 cover economic development corporations. Groves is a type B organization, and so that's mainly addressed in section 505. 600 communities throughout the great state of Texas have an EDC. And actually there's within those 600, there's 800 EDCs. Now the question is, how is that possible? That's not that math doesn't jive. Well, some communities have two EDCs, a type A and a type B at the same time.
There. Yep.
Groves began the process in 1994 to start the creating an EDC, and it was finalized in 96. The main purpose back in 96 when they created EDC was to create a financing vehicle to fund the construction of the wastewater plant. And then we started doing the smaller grants for businesses in approximately 2002. I say approximately because I'm not exactly sure what the exact date when they passed the first one. But our EDC does have a lot of bylaws. Bylaw was passed here, and those are the original bylaws that were created back in 96, and we have the authority to make recommendations to update those bylaws. If we want to change them ourselves, I'm not exactly sure the process, and if we haven't done it here before, I don't know if they need to go in front of council or not. I think they do.
Yes.
So let me make sure we're clear on one thing. EDC has a lot of discretion on a lot of items, but the final authority still rests with the city council. They're going to set the budget. They're going to set what we can spend money on and how much we can spend. Then within that purview and within some other limitations, we will have the discretion on how to spend those monies, mainly for the grants. But before we get into that stuff, y'all are the appointed board of the EDC. Congratulations. The board has officers and they have to be, the board will pick their own officers. So there's 4 that are required, and then if y'all want to make more, we can make more at a later time, but there's a president, a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer. So at some point in the very near future, we need to take a vote and nominate y'all to one of these offices. They're all spelled out in the bylaws about what's required with which, but basically the president and the secretary can only be the president and the secretary. The vice president and the treasurer role can be combined in one person. And if there's any other roles that y'all see fit to create, we can combine those into one person as well. But as the rules of the bylaws are written, those are the minimums. The president has a lot of work to do leading the meetings. I'm here to assist. I'm the executive director officially. I work for the city of Groves. I'm Lamar Osley. I'm the finance director. But I'm also the EDC director, so I have to take care of a lot of the paperwork, get all this stuff organized. I report to Mr. Caruth behind me, the city manager. So I'm not gonna, a lot of the stuff I do, I work with him to make sure we're doing it right as far as the city's concerned. And he has a lot of experience with economic development, so we're absolutely gonna use him as a resource. But we're going to need to make these temporary nominations for these, these nominations for your positions on the board, probably at the next meeting. But officially, according to the bylaws, we're going to have the official appointments at the end of the fiscal year. Fiscal year runs October through September. So at the last meeting in September, we're going to make nominations for the next fiscal year for who has what offices. The same person can hold the office for 2 consecutive years and only 2 consecutive years, and then there'll be some turnover. So if y'all remain on the board, whoever's president, it's Ms. Canals, she can be appointed for next year. That'll be her 2nd year, but after that, she has to roll off. And then someone else will be nominated to be president. One other thing, the conflict of interest is addressed in the bylaws. If something comes up, a grant or some other action item that y'all have a conflict of interest in, it's on y'all, because I don't know everybody's ins and outs, but it's up to y'all to, you can choose to recuse yourself or at least abstain. Y'all can discuss it, but if the vote comes up, you're expected to at least abstain, not recuse yourself completely from the item. All right. So in other words, if you have a business grant, your business has a grant in, you're welcome to participate in the discussion, but you're not supposed to vote. Okay, that's a conflict of interest. All right. Texas Open Meetings Act. That's a fun read. But we are subject to this law. It means the agendas will be posted 72 hours before the meeting occurs. There's 2 required spots physically. There's a bulletin board right here outside the council chambers that it has to be posted on, and there's a bulletin board inside City Hall. It also needs to be posted on the internet if it's available, and I believe it is available. I have to disclose that, yeah, there are maybe emergency meetings. EDC is really not going to have a lot of emergency meetings. City council might in case of a hurricane or whatever else is happening. We keep the minutes and recordings. We do record the meetings. So congratulations, y'all are on video forever. We do have, as we just experienced, we can have executive sessions, which means we have to go to a private room if we're discussing certain very specific items, and only those items can be discussed in private. Usually it requires somebody with Mr. Monk's skills, legal type items that aren't to be discussed in public. Those are all spelled out very clearly what is and is not allowed. Unless we're going to be buying or selling real estate, I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of reason to even consider going into the executive session. Got a fair statement, Mr. Monk?
Yes, sir.
Um. There are 7 of y'all. So there's 4 people is a quorum. So understand that if 4 of y'all gather outside of a public meeting, outside of a public notice, there is a risk of violating the Open Meetings Act. But if it's just social, you're just hanging out and you're not talking about EDC business, then there's not a problem. It's to keep people from gathering outside and making plans outside of public, outside where the public is here. So be aware of those items. Walking quorums is also a similar thing. That's where we start playing the telephone game. I'll call you, say, hey, vote this way. I'll call you, say, hey, vote that way. I call you. That's not all at once. We're not all on the same phone call, but it's the exact same thing. That's not allowed.
Also, I think with answering back to the emails, we need to,
Yes, absolutely. If the question goes out, be careful of the reply alls on your emails. So if a question goes out regarding EDC business that could come up for discussion at a meeting, you can reply like individually, but if you hit that reply all button, or at least 4 of y'all, then you could be at risk for violating. So be safe than sorry, just don't do it. Just reply back to the center. Don't reply all. So safe way to do your business. Now, the good news is there's not a open meetings police that walk around and monitor everything we do every day, but there are people who can pay attention. And I'd rather be above board and transparent than risk forcing someone else to come in and have to correct us. Okay. The bylaws for the meeting, say the 4 members already have a constituted quorum. We already talked about that. If we want to pass an item, whatever it is, it has to be 4 affirmative votes. So if there's only 4 people at the meeting, there's a quorum, 4 people vote aye or yes, it passes. If there's 7, it only takes 4 ayes for it to pass. Proper decorum is expected. We'll be polite, we'll be professional. We're going to operate under Robert's rules, which I'll mention here in a second. All right, there it's right there. Which spells out certain procedures that we have to follow, which means we'll put an item out, say, hey, we're going to talk about this grant for ABC company. And one person says, get the language right. I move that we discuss the grant for ABC business. So everybody seconds it, and then you're allowed to discuss it at that point. If no one puts the initial nomination out, or no one seconds it, then it dies. Can't talk about it, and we move on to the next time. Little things like that. You see it on TV, it looks pretty neat on C-SPAN and all that. We'll do our best if you have questions, but I would basically ask everybody to be courteous, wait your turn. So the president is in charge of managing the meeting. She'll call on you that if you have a question or a comment, and we'll all take turns. Try to be professional, courteous. We've had issues with that in the past. I hope we've learned from our errors of our ways, and we'll try to do better going forward. I've learned as well, and if things start getting a little warm, I might ask that we take a quick adjournment or a recess so we can cool off before we gather together, but I'm sure we'll never get to those types of situations. Be courteous. We're all here volunteering our time, doing this for the betterment of the city. Let's keep that in mind. At the meetings, if something's not listed on the agenda, we can't discuss it. We're going to talk about just the item on the agenda. If you want to talk about whatever, at the end of the meeting, you'll have a chance to make comments. It's not supposed to be a discussion, it's just comments. Hey, I want to talk about, we're having a con festival coming up, y'all show up. Hey, we had a good article in the newspaper, things like that. It's not action items like, you know, we need to do this for that person and stuff like that. It's just more comments. We have a section in here for citizen comments that we just went through on the agenda. Citizens can come up here and say whatever they want to say within certain decorums as well. But I'm all for having the public comment. But as a board, y'all can just listen to those comments. You can't really interact. You're very limited on, they'll come in there and say, what are you gonna do about this? What are you gonna do about this? Whatever it may be. You are limited to giving what I lay out here. You are allowed to give a statement of facts. You can have a discussion to put it on a future agenda. Not what the item's about, but let's discuss when we can put it on a future agenda, only like we can put it on the next month or whatever we want to do. Or we can recite what the existing policies. That's it. It's not, oh, that's a great idea, or that idea is not very good. None of that. These are the things you have to stick to when someone's coming up here and saying, hey, I want to talk about, dogs running loose in the streets or whatever they want. These are the replies that the board can answer. All right. That's most of the procedures. Y'all have questions about that or anything? I'm going through this kind of quick, but I'm not sure if I want to stay till 8 o'clock either. Okay, well, y'all feel free to contact me anytime y'all want. If you have other questions about that, we'll work through it as well. But now let's talk about what we're really here for, what EDC really does. EDC gets revenue from the sales tax. The sales tax is 1.5% in gross. 1% goes to the city, 0.5% goes to the EDC. We've had a good run these last few years. We've been averaging $2.7 to $3 million in sales tax. So EDC gets a third of that. So that's why I put 900,000 been the average over the past 5 years. And the trend has been going up. It's really good. If y'all recall, there was a time when there was a Walmart and a Super Kmart here. They left. Guess what sales tax did? It collapsed. It got tight. But we've been chipping away at that coming back, and we're thrilled that it's over $3 million as it is last year. So what can we do with this money? Well, we have the city utilized the EDC to buy a new fire station. The city issued $10 million worth of bonds to build that new fire station and a new, partially of a new fire truck. It's being paid for with EDC funds. So as the EDC financed the wastewater plant, it's now financing the fire station. That annual ticket for that bond payment is $582,000. So of your $900,000, 582 is already spent for you. So okay, that's one piece of it. I'll skip the grant part in a second. This past 2 years, I think it was, or at least this past year for sure, the city council, again, I said this earlier, sets the EDC budget. City council set a transfer of $225,000 from EDC to the city. And that's to cover various costs as if the EDC was a standalone business. The EDC was standalone, they'd have their own building, they have their own staff, they have their own utilities, they have their own payroll, have their own, all that stuff to run the business. It was decided that 225 was the number. They may change their mind this upcoming budget, they may increase it, they may decrease it. That's up to council. So to keep the math easy, assume that number is 220 and the annual debt payment is 580. That gets you to 800,000-ish. So 800,000 of 900,000 is already called for. Recognizing that council might decide to do something different with the admin fee. Bond, that ain't changing. That's going to be what it is for the next 17 years. So roundabouts about $100,000. We've been averaging $50,000 in grants to the businesses and grows over the last few years. Maybe up to 100,000, and then things get kind of tight at that point. We're supposed to operate on a balanced budget. So how much money comes in should equal how much money is going out. Now we do have a fund balance. Fund balance means savings account, for lack of a better term. And if we have reason to, with certain permissions from city council, we can go into that fund balance. That's about $1.4, $1.5 million off the top of my head. I have to double check that right off, but it's in that range. That's a savings account. Think of it as a rainy day fund, perhaps. but it's dedicated just to EDC business. So that's, I don't see us going into that anytime soon, but council may say they want to, who knows? So in other words, we have about $100,000, $50,000 to $100,000 in grants. That's going to be the primary role of this board, is how do we want to take care of those grants. We have forms that were enclosed in the email, and little spread, little sheet lays out what it can and can't be spent on, and how those reimbursements are calculated. Let me be very clear on this. The grants that we entertain are reimbursement grants. They've already done the work, they have the receipts, and they say, I spent $5,000 on advertising, and here's the receipts. I spent $5,000 on painting my building, and here's the receipts. You can go by, and I would encourage all of y'all when we're considering these things to go by and take a look. Did they do the work? Is it real? And then it's up to y'all to decide if you want to approve the grant or not. The grant is a reimbursement. All right, we don't front money to people. We can, we have those options if that's the route we want to go down. Those are a lot more involved. When you front money to somebody, you're going to have performance requirements that they're going to have to sign a document saying, I'm going to have 3 full-time people. I am going to do this, that, or the other. And we have to go back after the fact and say, okay, we gave you $10,000. Did you do what you said you were going to do? If you did, great, no problem. If they didn't, you got to claw back the money. That can get difficult. We just do the reimbursements. They've already done the work. It's there. We can see it. Here are the receipts. Then it's up to a vote. Y'all agree that it's done. All right, yay or nay. And that's how we've been doing it. Again, you're the board. We can have discussions. If there's something that y'all don't like, you do like, you want to propose changes, let's talk about it. Let's get it out there. But I'm just giving you a brief synopsis of this is what we do. This is how we do it. So leads quickly into future activities. The next meeting is, what's the Memorial? 27th?
The 27th.
27th, Tuesday? Okay. Couple of things. The EDC meetings have been scheduled to follow the council meetings, their last meeting of each month. Which is usually Mondays, which in this case will follow on Memorial Day, so they're pushing it to Tuesday. So our next meeting will be Tuesday, the 27th, after the council meeting. Which hopefully doesn't last till 6:30, but it is what it is. One of the things we can put on the agenda is if we want to change the time and the day. It's y'all are the board. Y'all can set the time and date if y'all would like to. I would encourage that we still have it here so we can have it videoed and all done correctly. But again, if y'all are the board, we can figure out a way to get this all set up if we need to. But if y'all have a better time or date that y'all would like to start looking at, that would be the meeting to discuss. I know we all like being here at 7 o'clock at night, but it is what it is. If I might be so bold, I'd probably put that on the next agenda for discussion. So yeah,
How do we add something on the agenda?
great question. The short answer is you can ask me as executive director, you can ask the president, or if 2 board members want to put it on the agenda, they can. I don't have a hard, I'll be honest with all of y'all, probably more than y'all want me to be. I'll tell you, yes, I think that's a good idea. We'll put it on there, or no, and I'll tell you why I think it's a bad idea. That doesn't mean it's dead. You can still ask the president or have 2 council members on there. I have no problem with most everything on there. If there's legal reasons or anything like that, I'll be happy to discuss it with any of y'all one about what the problem is. Or you can talk to Mr. Monk as well, if you have legal questions like that. But if you want someone on the agenda, the general thing is email me, call me, say, hey, I'd like to talk about this at the next meeting. And I'll say, great, or I need to check something, I'll get back to you. Or I'll say, I know that's a bad idea because X, whatever it is. But yeah, let me know if y'all want something on there, we'll put it on there. I'm happy to get it out there and discuss. I've given you all the rules and the things we can do, recognize the financial limitations we're under. And I'm sure sales tax is gonna continue to keep going up. But there's not a lot of wiggle room after that debt payment and that admin.
We could get Chick-fil-A to open up on Sunday.
I think that's perfectly reasonable. Perfectly reasonable.
That's what brought the sales tax up.
Yes, I think they may have something to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best to not get specific to any one business in these areas, but yeah, we'd be fooling ourselves if we didn't acknowledge that they might have something to do with it. Fair enough.
Yes.
But other things we have to do, at the next meeting, we'll need to at least elect officers until the next fiscal year. So start thinking about that.
Does that need to be an agenda item or is that already kind of,
I'm gonna make it a.
you're gonna make that up?
Yeah, it's all spelled out. And if anybody wants to put their name forward for that, be ready to offer that. Otherwise, you know, may get volunteered, happens.
You can volunteer or get voluntold.
Fair enough. There's not a whole lot that is involved with each position. Basically, the president's going to run the meetings. The vice president, in the absence of the president, will run the meeting. Secretary is going to assist with the minutes. The treasurer will work with me on the finances, and y'all are going to get the finances every meeting anyway, about how much we have, how much we received, how much we spent, where I think we're going to be, as if everything stopped today, what I think will be at the end of the year. It's not very complicated. It's just, okay, we started with, pick a number, $2 million, spent $50,000. We brought in $100,000. So now we're going to be $2,050,000 to the good. This real, and it'll spell out where the expenditures were for. I'll show you all that kind of stuff. I'll show you the history of sales tax and those type of things. We'll discuss various economic indicators, like, I don't know, 1,000-point move on the Dow today was kind of nice. See if that keeps happening up. Interest rates, see. We need to get clear on what is and isn't eligible for grant reimbursements. I do have one question pending that I'll put on the next agenda for discussion. Don't think it would be appropriate for me to bring it up at this point, but at the meeting, I'll bring up the item that's in doubt. Recognize it's a lot of it's already spelled out in that grant application, but I want to get y'all's feedback before I clean that up and say this is the 2024, 2025 grant. And then we'll keep doing that each year for each fiscal year going forward as things may fall. Or we just copy and paste from the previous year if we're happy with that. We can look to revise the bylaws if needed, so please take a moment to review those and see if we're needing to add, delete, edit any of those that y'all see fit. That might be something we want to wait a meeting or two to see how things flow before we attack something, because that's kind of a bigger item. And then one thing that we have been very poor in doing is developing an annual work plan. This is in the bylaws. This is required by the bylaws of what we're supposed to do. The board is supposed to do. We are supposed to develop some goals and objectives for this board every year. At the beginning of the year, and at the end of the year, we're gonna go back and grade ourselves. How did we do? Did we exceed or not exceed those expectations? And then we're supposed to give that feedback to council. That's set out in the bylaws. We haven't done it in the past. We need to start doing that. Gives us all a little motive, a goal to all work towards, goals, plural, work towards. And I have some ideas, but I would like for y'all to get some ideas as well of what those goals may be. So we can draft at least a short-term goals and objectives before the end of the fiscal year. And then we'll have a little bit more in-depth one for the new fiscal year. And then at the end of that fiscal year and into this fiscal year, we'll look back and say, how did we do? All right. And that is EDC in a 35-minute dialogue, basically. But please This is a workshop. We can talk freely. We can ask questions. We can discuss whatever it is you want to discuss.
Questions?
Yeah.
The amounts for the grant, 15,000 total, and then there's
Various categories
various
within.
categories under it. Is that set by the state, or is that something?
You're looking at who sets it. Now, there are
Okay.
certain rules that if it's like one area is over $10,000, we're supposed to go to council with. But all the grant categories are, they're designed to stay under 10,000 by category.
Okay. Now, just curious,
And it's on a fiscal year.
as people have been applying for the grants, has that been a reasonable amount of money to reimburse them, or is it just a small little percentage of?
It depends on who you ask. Some people are thrilled, and some people it's not very much. It's a de minimis amount. We
Because it
we
seems like it's
had
been that
Ann
number for a
Hotel
long
who came in
time.
and applied. I think it was $125,000 worth of eligible expenses,
Okay.
and we were able to give them 7,500. Which, you know, can we afford to give them 125?
No.
No. So we have to find that median.
Okay.
But if it's over $10,000 for whatever category it is, that is required to go in front of council as well. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying they're gonna vote no on it, but they have to still vote yes as well before that goes out.
If we did wanna change that, or
Sure.
that would be an agenda item.
In doing that, I feel like also we need to consider the other things that we could be offering to help with maybe capital campaigns, things like that, such as the water infrastructure, such as the streets, things like that. There are things that we're allowed to help with other than just those grants. Yes, I'm the director of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm gonna advocate for my businesses to get grants, absolutely. But I also, serving as president of this organization, with the EDC, I have a strong conviction for helping the city out and getting things that need to be done within our infrastructure. So when considering revamping or making any changes to those amounts that are already in place, please keep in mind those other items that we have the opportunity to help out with and help our city.
Here's a hypothetical. This board thinks it's a good idea to, get some out from my head real fast, to issue $6 million worth of bonds to help pay for the wastewater plant rehab. That's gonna run roughly $400,000. It's really off the cuff math. So this board can say, we want to drop the admin fee and we want to drop the grants. And with some rounding, that gets us 400,000 plus the 580, gets us pretty close to that $1 million. That's pretty much all the EDC can do. But if this board decides that's what they want to do, they'll make a recommendation to the city council, say, hey, we'd like the EDC, we would like the city to rehab the wastewater plant. And the city will say, well, it's going to cost $10 million. Pick a number. Well, EDC is capable of financing up to 6. And at that point, you say, okay, well, whatever excess revenues above the first bond payment, we want to apply to the second. That's something y'all can discuss and ask. And council can decide if they want to do that. That's up to y'all. But y'all can decide we want it for the wastewater plant, we want it for water or sewer pipes, whatever it may be. That's up to y'all. Or we can keep doing what we've been doing, and that's nothing wrong with that, or something in between. We don't want to do $600,000 or $400,000. We only want to do $150,000, whatever it may be. This is what we have. This is what you can suggest, and council can take it under advisement, and they can adjust the budget when it comes up accordingly. And they say, yeah, it's a great idea. We want to issue these bonds, and we'll take whatever EDC is willing to contribute.
So that 225,000 is a negotiable item. It's something we could propose to city council.
That's right.
If we want to change it.
That's correct. Council makes a decision, council makes a final decision. They may say, oh no, 225 is not enough, we want to bump it up to 400, whatever. They're the city council, they're the ones that are elected, they're the ones that have to live with the decision. They make the call. We can make
We just make a
recommendations.
proposal or recommendation.
Yeah. But good question.
We-
Well, I just had the one other question. I called you earlier about the Zoom meeting. Is it-
Yes, I've talked to, or help me, Lance, who is our IT, Zoom guy. Y'all know Lance from Get the Joke, but anyway. He recently moved up to the 64 color crayon pack. Are doing great. And our fire chief. But he handles the Zoom meetings. He says, yes, we can get you a phone number to dial in on, and we'll put you on that little whatever, 3-pronged saucer thing, and you'll be on the, your voice will be heard. But as I understand from the Open Meetings Act, you aren't allowed to vote.
Okay.
Correct. You're allowed to participate, say what you want to say, but you can't vote. You have to be present to vote.
Okay. Just so that y'all know, I've got 2 planned vacations in the next 2 months, both occurred when this meeting is.
But
You're
at the
gonna
next
have to
meeting,
cancel. Just teasing. Just teasing.
or at the next meeting, we change the dates. Who knows?
No, I was just saying, you know, we have basically 0.5% of the tax revenue, the sales tax revenue is what we initially had to work with. We got a large part of that already allocated, locked in. You know, essentially, we have up to, you said $100,000. So we're basically functioning at, you know, 10% capacity of what the EDC is fully capable of, which means that we really have to be conscious of, I think, the money that goes out and what sort of return is actually going to bring an impact on this sales tax number. So I don't know much about the water infrastructure thing. I think you mentioned it, you know, before, and but are we able to see, as far as like this administrative fee, kind of how that breaks down, and why is it $225,000? Is it necessary?
I can give you the answer. That's because that's what council thinks it ought to be. That's the short of it.
Okay.
There's no
You may
real
decide that.
breakout of saying this part is for this part for that. The thing that the thought during the discussion when they said it is, what would it cost the EDC to have a standalone business all by itself? And they went through some thumb in the air. Okay, they have to have a building. Building's gonna have, no, I guess it wouldn't have property tax, but it's gonna have utilities, it's gonna have insurance, it's gonna have staff, it's gonna have supplies, that just, and that's what they backed into.
So in a sense, the EDC is paying for this building.
In the sense that that's what the EDC would have to pay if it was all by itself.
So,
A share.
well, it sounds like it's paying for all of it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So if we were to prepare a proposal for, or a suggestion for a different fee, we would need to support that and back it up with some sort of substantiated things like, hey, this is, you know, if we were to try to suggest any sort of change to that.
Sure. Yeah. And also understand there is a fund balance. By nature, I'm gonna encourage you to stay away from it, but it's there. And if that's what y'all think we need to dip into for whatever project or whatever the item is that we want to discuss, you know, there's $1.4, $1.5 million just sitting there. It's earning interest, but it's sitting there. You know, if y'all decide that's what we need for whatever it may be. And again, please read through some of the information that was on that email. There's a lot of stuff this EDC did. Now, some things just aren't practical because you don't have it. It's like buying and building a business park. We really don't have a lot of open space to do that.
You know, 1.4 fund balance, or
Yes.
you're saying that's just money that wasn't used in previous years, it's just been
Correct.
balance into that fund.
Absolutely. And basically, there is a gap where the payments for the wastewater plant ended. And the wastewater plant ended, and then the fire station started. So there's where that money came from. It's those years in between that they didn't have that large annual payment going.
But also keep in mind that that is not the only, that was just an example that we used hypothetically as for, but there's other capital projects that we could help with and take on. And that's something we can discuss further as a group and make, decisions what we want to propose to do.
Do we have it stated what the actual balance, like not in the fund balance, but in the actual, like in the checking, not the savings sort of? Or does everything
It's all
go directly?
bundled together.
It's all bundled into
If you are the
one.
words.
So, okay.
And I didn't bring a sheet, but I'll be happy to email you the one I sent out last month. It breaks out. It'll show you by month how much money comes in, how much money goes out, who goes to. Kind of gives you projected ending balance.
Well, let's assume that we tied up 100% of EDC funds in these other things, and we basically had nothing to vote on. We did away with grants.
EDC is only required to meet once a year.
Is there anything in the bylaws that states that we couldn't go into the fund to approve a grant? Say, like, if we don't have.
If it's within the budget, the city council approves.
Thank you.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Oh, you said it's in the budget approved, so it would be something that would be approved for next year?
Correct. We're about to begin the budget process on the city side. We're gonna, not just for the EDC, but for everything throughout the city.
We propose using some of that 1.4 million, it would always be for the next budgeting cycle.
No, we can actually do amendments inside the same year.
Oh.
Can do amendments. Absolutely. But generally speaking, you'd like to have it planned out. But if something comes up that's hot and heavy and we need to act quick, there's nothing that says we can't. They don't have to say yes, mind you, but doesn't mean we can't propose it.
And remember that it's September when we start making those decisions, or we do make those decisions for the starts in
Come
October, right?
September, we'll have a pretty good idea what council is going to set for the budget.
Yeah, and then the same for us. That's the prime opportunity for us to propose anything that we're feeling like.
Let me
Yeah,
help you there.
yeah.
I would say July
Mhm.
would probably be a better time to start gathering what we would like to see in the next fiscal year budget for the
To
EDC.
have it ready for September, right?
Because they're gonna be voting on it in August,
Oh, okay.
and everything is hopefully signed, sealed, and delivered by September. So when we have that meeting, you know what I'm talking about, Ms. Tice. If we have that meeting at the end of September, it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And so at that point, we'll already have an idea what council had allocated for our budget.
Okay.
And then it's our idea, how do we want to execute? If we're here, if we're still setting a budget in late September, I'm gonna lose even more hair. And it's gonna be a rough time. We'll get through it one way or the other. So, we don't have a whole lot of time on our calendars as it is. We're not limited to one meeting a year or one meeting a month. We can have as many meetings as this board wants to have. Now, there's a process to call a special meeting, and again, if me or the president or two board members can ask to have a special. If something comes up, needs to get done. We can have more workshops as well about whatever subjects we want to talk about. And then the regular business meetings will be, here's the agenda, here's the items we're going to talk about, a lot more formal, structured type of stuff. I'll email y'all as soon as I get out of here, the financials for last month and, yeah, this last page, current activities. It's not the prettiest breakdown of the finances, but that tells you more or less where we are financially. What we're, with how much money we have available. So please review the stuff. If you have questions, feel free to call me directly. Feel free to call Ms. Canals, feel free to call Mr. Carew. Whatever you'd like to do, we'd be happy to discuss it with you. Come in, say hi, yell at me, throw things at me, whatever you want to do. We can talk about it one way or the other. I'm all for getting all this out and above and transparent and clear to everybody. The more y'all understand, the easier it is for everyone. One thing that I have to do, and I'm going to encourage the president to do, and y'all are absolutely welcome to do. I think I attached that as a.
Yes, it's in it.
Is it in there?
Yeah.
One of the fancy dancy training sessions. As the executive director, I am required to go to one of these every year. I would encourage the president go as well, because I may be absent. I might hit match 6 numbers and go dancing out of here, or I might get canned, who knows? But in the meantime, we have to have someone by law who's gone to one of these to help facilitate all our meetings. Y'all are more than welcome to do that. The dates are laid out. This TEDC website is outstanding. Lots of good resources there. We will, if there's a cost to it, and I'm looking to go to the November, or the Houston one in November. I would think Ms. Canals wants to go as well. Might even carpool, that who knows? But I will come to you for permission to go to that first. If there's a cost to attend, I'll disclose the cost of registration. I'll give you an estimate on the mileage per diem and say, hey, we want to go for the 14th. It's going to cost us $200 or whatever it ends up being. Y'all can see vote yay or nay on that, and then we go or we don't go. But I would strongly encourage that we get to go. But I have talked to the EDC, this Carlton Schwab guy who signed it at the bottom. He's the director of the EDC, about coming down and doing a presentation directly to y'all. Same as a training, like they just do here. They said it was $1,500 plus expenses, which basically is my living, meals, and hotels. Else. And that'd be the cost if he wanted to present it to us. And I don't know if this would be the year to do it, but it's something I would like to seriously think about. And not just have it for us, but maybe invite Port Neches and Nederland and Port Arthur and whomever else might be interested in coming, and split the cost out. And then it might become a little bit easier to swallow. And I think it would serve all of us really well to have that type of more candid discussion versus a room of 200 people. We don't think we have 200 people come here. Don't know where we put them, but either way. But, and I'm sure his costs will adjust with inflation, but last year it was $1,500 plus expenses.
For a 1-day training or a multi-day?
1 day. So I'd probably come down the night before, be my guess. It'd be a whole day. Something I just want to get y'all to think about.
Something probably for next
But
year.
regardless, I still have to go to the training. I'd encourage the president to go to the training, and whoever next year do the same thing. And again, all of y'all are welcome to go as well if you would like, to any one of you would like, but it's the same process. If you want to go to the one in Lubbock, bad choice, Richardson, better choice. You come in the meeting prior to and say, I want to attend the training in Richardson. It's going to cost this, and it'll be an agenda item, and you vote yay or nay, and okay, that will decide it if y'all want to go to that. So those are the trainings. Lots of information I've already emailed you. Lots of information on this TEDC website as well. And lots of constraints on the money we have available, to be honest with you. But we do have monies available that can help businesses, can help the city. So it's something we're gonna have to address and consider. And I'll help y'all any way I can. I can't give you the answers, but I can give you the information. Well, dragged it out a little longer. Sorry, guys. But, all right. Anything else? Any other questions? On this page, you have everybody's contact information. Front page, you have my contact information. So don't be shocked. I think I even have Mr. Monk's in there somewhere. Yep. Stuck in there too, Brandon. Sorry. So again, don't be shy. If you have questions, ask.
One question I do have,
Yeah.
since we're gonna be doing this next meeting with the election of the officers, if we you're interested in a certain post, do we email you about it? Do we talk to the president? Do we send one email, say, hey, I'm interested in this, and nobody reply all, or how do we handle that?
We usually do that at the meeting, don't we?
Usually it's discussed at the meeting.
It's
So you guys
discussed, yeah.
offer it at the meeting. Say, hey, I'm the best treasurer in the West. I would be the treasurer. And council, and then the board would probably say, you're hired. That's fine.
I've got this big dollar sign chain I've been wanting to wear. So
Right on. If we want to modify the bylaws and have a certain dress code, we can do that. Yeah, again, don't be shy with questions. The more y'all know, the more you understand, the better it is for all of us. There is a lot that can be done, but we're limited right now, but then we think things can change in the future. All right, so think dates. What, like the third Monday of every month, or at 8 in the morning, or whatever the heck y'all want to do. But what times work best for y'all? And we can set those up. It doesn't have to be at 7:30 in the evening on the second Monday of every month. Think about officer roles. There's a brief description in the bylaws about what each officer is required to do. Start thinking about budget and what kind of ideas and projects y'all would like to pursue. That's a bigger picture one that doesn't have to be answered quickly. And more short term about how we want to update the guidelines for the grants that we look to offer to the businesses. To be clear, sales tax paying businesses are our customers that we issue the grants to. As we have it right now, nonprofits are not eligible. If we want to change that, that can be discussed. But that's already been voted on by a prior EDC board, and they voted that no, nonprofits aren't eligible for these type of grants. It's basically, if they're going to pay sales tax to the state and to us, then they're eligible. So, anything else? Can I drag it out any longer at all? All right, Madam President. What else is on the agenda?
Adjourn.
Item 8, GEDC member comments. Into each meeting, y'all have the opportunity to make any comments you like. To each other or to the audience.
just looking forward to serving the citizens of Groves and the businesses in our city, and hopefully we can all collectively come together and put some good ideas out there that we can act on and see some positive change over this term.
Well said. Looking forward to it. Okay, we will adjourn this meeting at 7:28 with 44 seconds.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking about